Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter when the ships start sailing. And I'd like to welcome back to the show all the way down in Florida. She's enjoying the sun and getting ready for the afternoon shower. How are you doing today, Christy?
Isn't that all the truth? I'm well, Steve. How are you?
Not too bad. What do we got? Just a couple days left of happily ever after, and then you're going to have a whole different firework routine that you're going to be able to hear possibly.
Yes. I mean, I'll be able to hear it. Yeah, we watched last night over the weekend from the cul-de-sac, and I think I'm going to have to watch it a couple more times. I'm not ready for the end of Happily Ever After. I'm just not.
Can you stream the music?
Yeah. So that's what we do. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we start it, and usually I use the Disney Parks blog because I don't have to worry about commercials, although they change the camera angles, so I don't love that one as much. But we started at 8:15 because that's when it's starting at right now at the Magic Kingdom. And then we try to time it. And I'll play around with it if I am off somehow, but so that my fireworks go off with the real time fireworks. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, that is awesome. And I'm excited about the fireworks on the ships from what you have been able to see and everybody's been talking about. That's a little bit different, not necessarily associated with Pirate Night. And they've got some cool Disney music with it. So, hey, did you know the ships are sailing, Christy?
Well, I do know that.
Yes, you've been on.
I was wondering why we're still saying when the ships are sailing, but I think, old habits die hard, right?
They do. So, I thought we'd turn to a different topic. Actually, you came up with the topic through a friend of yours on Instagram. I think it would be fun to turn to this topic. We haven't talked about it in a while, talking a little bit of concierge sailing on Disney Cruise Line.
It's such a fabulous product. I'm so jealous of our guest.
So why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest today, Christy?
So today we have Carol with us, who's on Instagram as Disney Cruise _mom of 3. She happens, of course, to be a mom of 3. And she did, let's let Carol tell you what she did in terms of these cruises, because it's pretty special.
Welcome to the show today, Carol.
Thank you so much for having me. So originally our family had 2 7-night back-to-back cruises booked on the Disney Fantasy and Concierge. And of course, those itineraries were shortened and changed to 4 nights each, both double dips at Castaway Cay. And so we sailed on September 11th and then again on September 18th on the Disney Fantasy.
So Carol and I were on the cruise on the 18th together, but of course I wasn't in the beloved Concierge that cruise. So I have to live vicariously through Carol's wonderful experiences with her and her family.
Well, before we get into your experiences on board, Carol, let's get a little bit of your background. What is your cruising and Disney background?
My husband retired out of the military about 4 years ago, and we decided to take our kids to Disney World. Our travel agent said, I know you really want to take the kids to Disney World because our family's never been to Disney World. Shocker, I know. But she said, Disney Cruise Line has these Marvel Day at Sea cruises. And since you have a teenage son, I think you would really enjoy that. So that began our journey in January of 2019. We started sailing on Disney Cruise Line, and it's just been downhill or uphill ever since. I don't know how you would want to say that, but we've been on 5 Disney cruises and just have loved every minute.
5 Disney cruises since January of 2019. 2019.
Yes, that's correct.
And then we weren't cruising for 18, 17 months or something of that time period. And you got 5 in. Okay. So the first was on the Magic for the Marvel Day at Sea. Clearly you loved it because you booked a couple of more that year, correct?
Right. So the first one was the Marvel Day at Sea on the Magic, and it was non-concierge.
Oh, okay.
And then our second cruise was actually over Halloween in 2019. It was October and November 2019. And that one was our first concierge cruise. And once you do that, it's kind of difficult to go back to anything else after that. And then we decided we wanted to repeat Marvel Day at Sea. So we actually did another Marvel Day at Sea cruise in February of 2020. So
you got that in just before the ship stopped sailing, huh?
We did. It was right before the shutdown, and we've had 5 canceled cruises in between. So we were really looking forward to these cruises that we just had in September.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for your husband's service before we get going too. And also thank you for your service, because it's not just him that's in the military. It's both. It's both people that are kind of in the military together.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So Christy, why don't you give an overview of concierge before we start talking about Carol's experiences?
Concierge is seriously the most loveliest way to travel. Prior to the cruise, a concierge host called Shoreside. So a Shoreside concierge host will reach out to you and they'll let you know what items can be booked when the booking window opens for your cruise. They let you know what is available. They'll answer any questions you have, so you don't have to call the general Disney Cruise Line number to ask questions. There is a host team in Florida, I think they're in Florida, that answers those questions for you. And then when you get on board, there's a lounge now. Obviously, when the Magic and the Wonder first had concierge cabins, there wasn't a lounge then, but now there is. And there's like food and evening happy hour and the most amazing concierge hosts that you could ever experience in your whole entire life. They really do make the cruise that much more magical and memorable. It's just that little extra bit of service. Like when you're in concierge, you never go to guest services. You never ask guest services a question because you have your concierge hosts that are there. Even if you need change to like add to your tips or have a question about your onboard account, or you opened up your internet app and accidentally used it all up, just by starting, which I'm fairly certain has happened to us once. They can go in there and undo it and do the things or get you your change. They are magical beings. I don't know how else to describe it except that it is truly wonderful.
Well, kind of looking at the concierge cabins too, they're a little bit more upscale they've got some bigger cabins, but their main one is just a veranda. And I don't know how, the Disney Cruise Line beds and everything are so much comfortable in and of themselves. I don't know how a concierge can make them even more comfortable, but just looking at the pictures, they do look amazing.
The couch is different. The rest of the cabins, besides having some of that fake wood or real wood or whatever wood looking stuff on the walls, paneling and stuff, basically the rest of the cabin is the same, except that the bath products are different. But then when you move up, so the family veranda is the exact same size as the regular family veranda, except that, again, the bath items are different. The carpet, I feel like, is actually a little bit softer. The couch is softer and is different. But other than that, the cabins really are the same. I think there might be like a pillow menu too, which I've never experienced, but I'm pretty sure that exists. The cabins are the same, but then there's the 1 bedroom and then the royal suites. And then on the other ships, they have like the 2 bedrooms and things like that. There are bigger cabins as well.
Okay. Well, before we talk about the back-to-back cruises that you sailed, Carol, let's kind of get your overview of concierge. What are some of the things that you take advantage of ahead of time when Shoreside gets a hold of you guys?
Well, I think initially for us, particularly because we were silver, and it can be very difficult to book things when you're silver. You can kind of miss out on a lot of things. One of the best perks is being able to book activities before anyone else. They give you an email and they give you a day and a time that you have to submit requests. And those requests actually go in 5 days before Platinum can book. And what happens is the Shoreside concierge actually book all of your activities before that midnight booking window opens for Platinum and concierge. So concierge activities are already booked before Platinum is open for booking even. So I think that was one of the big nice perks for us, was to be able to book things like Palo Brunch that sometimes get booked up. And obviously a cabana at Castaway Cay, we really enjoy that. So that's, can sometimes be impossible to get one of those unless you're sailing concierge. And it's nice just to have that direct line. And especially lately with all the changes and all the things that have happened, it's been really nice to have that direct line to Shoreside to call instead of having to call the main line and wait for a very long time for answers.
Living the military lifestyle where it's kind of crazy all the time, and you've got 3 kids, having that one point of contact that can really take care of everything for you has got to be nice as far as the vacation planning goes.
It is really nice. And they're always super helpful and really will just try to do about anything that you want. And speaking of pillow menus, there is a pillow menu for concierge for all the concierge rooms. And so you can request pillows, you can request types of drinks in your refrigerator when you get on board. There are just so many things that you can ask for ahead of time that will all be ready for you when you get there. So that's nice.
For the cruises that you've booked concierge, have you been in the same room category for every cruise?
Yes.
And which do you book?
We always book a 1-bedroom suite.
I love the 1 bedroom, Steve. Okay, I've changed my mind. I don't want to do this recording anymore. I'm too excited. I'm too jealous. Let me just say, I'm also very happy for Carol and her family.
There's 5 of you. How does that work in a one bedroom suite for you guys, especially with a teenage son? Because our kids are getting bigger too. We have not been back on board. And oh my gosh, my son is taller than me now. So I think about him being on, like the couch bed and everything like that. How does that work for you guys?
So our children, we have a 17-year-old son, and then we have 2 daughters who are 11 and 9. The way the sleeping arrangements work is obviously my husband and I sleep in the main bed. And then our teenage son, who is 6 feet tall, so he's tall, he sleeps in the Murphy bed that folds down. And then our girls share the sofa bed. So it works out fine for us for now. As the girls get older, I'm not sure how well that's going to work. They don't particularly enjoy sleeping with each other, but the sofa bed is pretty comfortable. And so they'll make the sacrifice if they have to be on a Disney cruise.
The first world problems, right? What other advantages what other things do you take advantage of? I know Chris in the concierge he's been on, he's a big Red Bull fan. He doesn't drink coffee. So a lot of times they'll have that stocked in the room for him. What kind of things have you taken advantage of?
We do always ask for specific pillows from the pillow menu. We ask for certain types of sodas and Powerade. There's not a lot of other in-room things that we particularly ask for, but we do like to ask for a special place to sit in the dining room, which is kind of nice. For example, on this last cruise, we specifically asked to have a table close to the screen, an animator's palette. So it's nice when they're able to accommodate. They're not always able to accommodate, and they do, make that clear. But so far, we've always been accommodated with our requests. So that's nice.
And I don't think I have ever had a bad table placement location when I've sailed concierge. So obviously I've sailed both. My last 2 sailings this year, we have had horrible table placement, like couldn't even see a screen, wasn't near a screen, could never have been talked to because we were like in this weird corner that, no crush talking to was going to happen. It was fine. It didn't matter to us. But when I have sailed concierge, I have always enjoyed that our table placement has always been really, really perfect.
I will say that the very first time that we sailed, we were on the Magic, and one of my favorite dining rooms is Rapunzel's Royal Table. And for our very first sailing, our very first dinner on board was in Rapunzel's, and we were literally sitting behind a pole and could not see. So we did not have a very good table placement for that one. But concierge, I know right now Disney Cruise Line obviously is sitting everyone at a private table with only people in their party, but concierge is always seated privately with just people in their party unless they specifically request otherwise. So,
well, Christy, you were sitting in my spot. We were usually back in the corner. That's for, you've seen Sorcerer Mickey, right? And the brooms that he brings to life in the little closet where the brooms come out of. That's where we usually stay. And that's where we normally stay, is back in that corner. So
apparently being your friend has not paid off for me.
It has not paid off. They're moving you backwards. So Carol, what has changed before COVID and now with this sailing as far as concierge? Have they offered anything differently? They've been able to give you some insight as far as port arrival things or things that you need to do prior to that? What else has changed?
So I'll tell you the differences, and I actually quite like the changes that they've made. One of the differences really started at the port, and once we got clear to sail and went to check in, in the terminal, they've always had a separate check-in line for concierge, but this time not only did they have a separate check-in line, but they also had a separate security line for concierge, which was really nice. Even though there really wasn't a long line of people, but it was still a nice extra perk. One of the other things that has changed on board is now in the lounge, instead of being able to serve yourself food and drink, obviously, like everywhere else in the ship, they serve it to you. I didn't really find that made much of a difference in my experience. It was nice to have them do that for me. I didn't really mind that at all.
Did the food offerings change in the lounge for the breakfast or the afternoon delights or whatever, I don't know, afternoon snacks or the evening appetizers?
No, I would say if there was any changes, there were more offerings instead of less or different. I felt like there was so many things to choose from. My kids never had a hard time finding snacks that they wanted. I think the one thing my husband missed the most was being able to use the coffee machine himself. He really missed that. But otherwise, I didn't really feel like it made a difference in our experience at all.
Steve, that coffee machine is something dreams are made of. It's lovely. So, and for our listeners, it's been a while since we've talked about basically how the concierge lounge works, but all day long, essentially, maybe there's an hour here or there where there's nothing. there's food out in the lounge. So there's breakfast in the morning, and they'll have things like, how do you say it?
Muesli.
Muesli. Yeah. And they have like some pastries and fruit and meats and stuff like that. And then in the afternoon, it's not going to really be lunch, but they have like little salads. And I do think they have like little tiny sandwiches, like tea sandwiches. And in the evening, they'll do some more salad and some more. I think there's like fruit at various times as well, but there'll be more salad, and there is just other little appetizers. Later in the evening, they have a whole big dessert selection. And if you have an allergy like I do and have a food limitation, Concierge has always had options for me as well. So they would get like either the gluten-free donuts up there for me and just get them. My food has always been gotten from the server. So for me, that wouldn't have been a change, but it's good to know that it's not a bad change. Here's a question. So in Concierge, you used to have unlimited popcorn. Obviously, you can't eat popcorn in the theater right now, or they're not even selling popcorn elsewhere. Did they still have popcorn to offer for you?
They did indeed. And they actually inundated us with tons of popcorn, even though we couldn't take it to the theater. They came around door to door, giving out popcorn for the kids to have. And every time we went in the lounge, they're like, do you need more popcorn? Because that popcorn is pretty amazing.
It is so good. And Sarah of Gluten-Free, Dairy-Free Walt Disney World is going to be so jealous, because if you remember, Steve, they really wanted popcorn on their cruise and couldn't get any. So sorry, Sarah, I guess next time sell Concierge and you could have popcorn until they bring it back. But oh my God, I'm so jealous. Okay. So, and then you told me when we met, because we met during our cruise, you told me about another offering that was different, that you liked better in the lounge in the evening, or not in the lounge, but as it relates to Concierge in the evening.
Well, we had a couple of different changes. One was the drink trolley that they do from 5 to 10. They have open bar basically for Concierge, and they don't have, some people have the misconception that you can get anything to drink during that time, and they have a plethora of offerings. And if you ask for something, they will do their best to get it for you, but they can't do frozen drinks. That's one thing that they don't do in the Concierge Lounge. But now they have this drink trolley, and you can schedule to have it come by your room, and they make drinks right outside your door and give them to you. And they also have an antipasta plate that they give to you with it as well. It's pretty fabulous. Oh. So I love that change. It was we actually weren't even going to use it. My husband and I would just go into the lounge to get our drinks. And one of the most fabulous concierge hosts, Ropa, she said, you have to try out the drink trolley. It's so fun. And so she scheduled for it to come to our room. And it was just a really, really neat, fun experience.
Steve, we need a drink trolley. How do we get a drink trolley? I'm going to look to see if my October sailing, if Concierge is still available. Maybe I won't, but maybe I'll upgrade myself.
I am the drink trolley in our room. So
yeah.
I go and get the drinks. Anything else, Carol, that's changed as far as Concierge offerings? It seems like Disney's kind of maybe some of the changes maybe were driven by kind of COVID, but it also seems like maybe they're stepping up their game a little bit to kind of upgrade the experience compared to what other people experience on different cruise lines.
I think they may be. One of my favorite changes was the fact that they actually this time had a designated area for Concierge to view the fireworks. And that has never happened before. We've never had a designated area. And so they had a certain time and they had us all meet in the lounge, and we all went up together, and they had chairs and everything for us to be able to view the fireworks. And it was a really good view. So that was a really nice change that I hope they keep.
How did you like the fireworks? Let's talk about that real quick.
It was short, but I really enjoyed them. I thought it was a nice change, from seeing the same ones over and over again. I really enjoyed the music and the fireworks. I thought it was really good. My kids enjoyed them a lot too.
Being silver, you're a little bit behind on the booking window behind gold and platinum. It depended upon the sailings. I know Concierge sells out really quickly. Have you found it hard to be able to book the Concierge cabins that you've wanted on the cruises you've wanted?
Not really. We typically actually don't book when they first come out a lot of times, which I know people think that's a big, faux pas thing to do because they're usually cheaper when they first come out. But a lot of times with my husband's work schedule, we just can't do that. We have to be able to work around that first to make decisions, to be able to plan the vacations. So I will say that I think right now it's much harder to get that concierge room if you're trying to book something within the next year. But in the past, we really haven't had a whole lot of trouble getting what we wanted. A lot of times when it gets close to paid in full date, a lot of people drop or change. And so that makes it a little bit easier to kind of get what you want.
So you've sailed on the Fantasy and the Magic, right? No other ships? Those are the two?
Those are the two.
So obviously the Fantasy was designed specifically with concierge space in mind, and the Magic, it was a little bit of a put together afterwards. What are some of the differences between the two? And are there some differences that stand out for you, either good or bad?
The biggest difference, I would say, is the fact that obviously on the Fantasy, because it was designed that way, the lounge is in the same area with all the staterooms. So it's very convenient to get in and out of the lounge to get the things that you want. It just makes it really easy. Whereas on the Magic, it's on a different, the rooms are on deck 8 and the lounge is on deck 10, I think. It's been a little while, but I think deck 10. It's a little more inconvenient, I guess, if you want to say it that way, to get to the lounge. And if you were trying to carry food and drinks back to your room, obviously it would be more of a hassle than anything else. The service is the same across the board. There's no difference in service. The lounge is a little bit smaller, I think, on the Magic maybe, but it has a lot of windows where you can view out. That's really kind of nice to have all that natural light. Whereas on the Fantasy, it's more closed in. And then another difference is obviously the Fantasy has a hot tub on the concierge sun deck and the Magic doesn't have that. So, they're really small differences in my opinion. I think the biggest one is just that little bit of inconvenience of having to go to a different deck to get the lounge.
Yeah, it's harder to walk out in your pajama pants and just cross the hall with your young child. I may have done that several times.
And then with the Wish coming, have you taken a look at, have you been following the Wish Carol? And I'm not sure, I'm totally drawing a blank now. Have they really talked about concierge as far as what some of their offerings may be? And if not, what are you kind of looking forward to?
They have discussed some things. I know one of the things that a lot of people who like to sell concierge are really excited about is it looks like that concierge has their own pool deck, which is pretty exciting. I think there are a lot more concierge room offerings. A lot of people are looking really forward to that. We actually have not booked the Wish yet. We're kind of waiting a little bit, let all the kinks get worked out. We'll let some bloggers show us what the experience is like, and then we'll make our decision about what we want to do after that. So we do have several other cruises booked on other ships, and we're just kind of holding out on the Wish for now.
Do you have the Wonder booked for next year?
We do not have the Wonder booked, but we are looking at that.
I would highly recommend it. Their lounge is amazing. Their team is typically amazing. Obviously, it's like the Magic where you have to go up the 2 flights of stairs, but they have a huge outdoor section that's covered, but partially in the sun, partially not. Really, really, really nice, but all with views of the sea. So that would be really nice, especially through one of the New Orleans sailings. I think the sail out and concierge there would be really nice. Then you get to have Tiana's for your restaurant choice, which is the everybody's favorite.
Yes, I've heard that. And we actually had the Wonder booked for the Panama Canal cruise in February that got canceled. So it's definitely on our bucket list to still do that. And we definitely want to, we have a cruise booked on the Dream. We've not been on the Dream. We have a back-to-back cruise in March booked on the Dream. And we are definitely looking at some Wonder sailings as well, because we would like to experience all the ships.
While we're on the back-to-back, let's talk about that for a second, because we don't get too many people doing back-to-backs and or discussing it. It was the same cruise, literally the exact same cruise for you, 4 nights. And then you took 3 days in an Airbnb, which I know because we talked. And then you did the 4 nights again. How was it doing the same cruise twice?
I think it might not have been as magical and fun as it was if we had been cruising regularly, if it had been kind of normal circumstances. But I think given the fact that it was our family's first time back since the shutdown, and it was the Fantasy's first revenue sailing, the first cruise, I kind of felt like I was walking around a little bit in shock the whole time of, oh my goodness, I'm really here. I'm really on board. And so there were just things about that first sailing that made it so magical because of those circumstances. We did a lot of things the first cruise. And then the second time around, when we were copying the same itinerary, it left us open spaces in our schedule to do some other things that we wanted to do. So even though they were exactly the same, we were able to have, a variety of different experiences just because we did, different things each time.
Well, that makes sense.
Well, before we talk about some of the specifics of the cruise that you're on, Carol, is there anything else you think our listeners should know about concierge? Other perks that you've taken advantage of or anything that we haven't talked about?
Well, I think I would just say that I see the question often on social media, is concierge really worth the price? And I think that really is just such a personal decision. For us, it is because we don't enjoy crowds. So we enjoy the fact that we have a separate check-in line. We enjoy the privilege of being able to book certain activities. We love being in a cabana on Castaway Cay. So again, that's a worth it thing to us. And there are so many little things that happen because of how amazing the hosts are that you just can't even begin to describe the extra. People say it can't be any more magical. Yes, it can. Trust me. I'll give you an example. When we were on one of our sailings, I had gone down to the shops early on to purchase a lounge fly bag that I really wanted. And I knew I had to wait to get on board to get it. And I got to the checkout counter and scanned my card, and they did not have my Disney Visa for my Disney Visa discount. And so she said, I can hold it for you, and you can come back with your card. So we went back upstairs and we went into the lounge, and one of the hosts said, what have you been doing? And so I told her about my experience. Not only did she get the Disney Visa thing fixed without me ever going back, in 10 minutes, she was at my door with the bag that I wanted. So she went and got it for me. She fixed all the things in the system. Like, it was just done just that quickly. And so I didn't have to go back. I didn't have to do anything. She just took care of all of it for me. So those extra touches that save you time on your vacation are really worth it to us.
Oh, that sounds so nice. I love that. They're so good there. They're so amazing. I do have a question. So in the past, in the pre-COVID times, there was a concierge. There would be, like on a 5-night or longer cruise, 2 deck parties for concierge. And sometimes on the 4-night, I'm not sure if there was 2 or not. I don't remember. But for your cruise, we had a 4-night. Did they do like a deck party with a special guest or anything like that for concierge?
No, there was no concierge soiree, and there was no concierge special character meet and greet this time.
So, hopefully that's something that will come back. It's pretty nice. It's any random character. The concierge guest or the host never know who it is, or they don't tell us they know. And I think it's that way so that if there's a change in the availability of the character, that they don't have to like let people down or people aren't planning. You get a character, but it's pretty nice. And on this cruise, which I'm sure, Carol, I know based on your pictures and stuff, you noticed it as well, but the character interaction was both phenomenal, frequent, and there was like no lines ever to go and interact with a character. Did you feel that way as well?
Yes, absolutely. We were able to spend so much time chatting with the characters. It was really, really, I think, a very unique experience. And that's what I told my husband when we went on these cruises. It was so hard because we went through so many changes and testing requirements and all these things. But I said, it's totally going to be worth it because it's going to be a unique experience that we probably won't ever have again in the future. So, and I absolutely we just stand there for 15 or 20 minutes and talk to Mulan, and my kids absolutely loved that. It was amazing.
Yeah. And Steve, there was like no line, no people. Every now and then there may have been a line of 3 or 4. Have you ever heard that in your life, a line of 3 or 4 people for a character to go up to? And they spent so much time with you. It was just the character interaction right now during this like post reopening time has been the very best.
I agree. It was amazing. And it's one of my favorite parts of Disney cruising is interacting with the characters. And so it's just such a unique experience, such a unique time. And it was amazing not to have to wait in line. We would literally see Mickey and Minnie and then turn around and go back and see Donald and Daisy back to back. It was just amazing.
I love that experiences for people right now who enjoy meeting the characters and being able to spend that time. Like you said, we all kind of know it's hard to do that in the parks. So that's one of the magical parts about Disney Cruise Line and for it being so much more enhanced right now. That's awesome. Can we go back to the beginning just a little bit? And I just want to talk about getting on board for concierge. You said that you had a separate security line. I'm kind of curious as far as, can you still pick whatever port arrival you want to come to for people that are booking concierge versus everybody else that has to go online and pick it? Can you kind of decide when you want to come? And is there anything else special about the onboard or getting on board?
Yeah, so concierge still does not have a port arrival time. You can arrive anytime you want to. Definitely, have to have your port arrival form printed out, and it has the little concierge keys on it. And so as soon as they see that at the port, they obviously let you in. We got there early each time, but yes, you can come whenever you want. I definitely advise people to go early rather than later if they're concierge, but you can go whenever you want.
I will say that as it relates to the arrival time, a fellow agent was cruising on the 18th when I was on that cruise as well. She arrived via Disney transportation like an hour before I did, or maybe even an hour and 15 minutes. She was on the ship after getting their port COVID tests in like maybe a half an hour. And we did not get our clearance until like 55 minutes after the test. So it took them longer to process the test, the longer into the arrival times that you were. At least it did for our family. And so I would definitely use that as a reason to arrive earlier if you are concierge and you can.
Okay, so once you guys get on board with the two cruises here, what are some of your favorite restaurants on board the Fantasy? Is there ones that stand out? And it sounds like maybe you did Palo Brunch, or did you do some specialty dining?
We definitely, beyond the shadow of a doubt, Enchanted Garden is our favorite menu as far as restaurants are concerned. We did Palo dinner on the first cruise, and then we did Palo Brunch on the second cruise. We did not actually do any Remy dining because my husband and I are going solo without kids in January. So we're going to do that then. Yay. But yeah, so we love Enchanted Garden. We love the menu in Enchanted Garden. Obviously, you can't beat the show and animator's palette. So for environment, though, I don't know, those character performances in Enchanted Garden are pretty cool. Yeah, they come in and dance around.
Have we talked about that yet, Steve? So Carol, explain what happens.
So towards the end of the meal, music starts and the characters come in and they do like a little performance where they dance around and go all around the dining room. And you know, it's just so neat to be able to see them. And they come pretty up close. I mean, they get pretty close. They don't stop, obviously, and interact with people because they're, you know, dancing and everything. But it was a pretty neat kind of dinner show.
Is that new? Because we've only been on the Fantasy and the Dream once, so.
It is new. And I don't know if they're doing it on the Dream. Well, I'll report back hopefully in a couple weeks because we went to we went to Palo for dinner on our Enchanted Garden night. We didn't get the opportunity to see them that time, but we definitely did enjoy it on the Fantasy. And then did you dine? Well, you would have during one of your cruises. You dined at Royal Court as well?
Yes. And the princesses come in.
So now there's like this princess experience, Steve, and the piano player. So our cruise had a piano player and a violinist. They are playing the music and they play the music for the princess when they come through, like the live music. And that restaurant, we were very close to the piano and the violinist. It was so lovely. And they like sweep through, they stay nowhere for any length of time. They're literally just walking basically and saying hi and like, you know, good evening, prince, and things like that to kids and princess, I'm sure. But the princesses come through. It's so crazy.
It's a nice added bonus to dinner in the dining rooms where typically before you enjoyed the environment, but there really wasn't any sort of entertainment or show or anything like that. So it's nice now in Royal Court and in Enchanted Garden that they have, you know, those interactions. It really definitely, I think, made the dinner experience much better.
I like the touches of the live music as well. So how about Palo? Did you guys enjoy the difference with the price fix versus the a la carte menu?
We did the a la carte menu for Palo dinner. It's not my favorite meal. I prefer the brunch to the dinner. I do like the souffle, but I mean, who doesn't like the chocolate souffle in Palo? But as far as the menu itself is concerned, it's really, really good. And I definitely think, you know, it's excellent quality, but I just prefer brunch. If I had to choose between the two, I would choose brunch. Even now with all the changes, I would still choose brunch over dinner.
See, Steve, let me just point out, Steve knows what I'm about to say, but brunch is the clear winner. And so is the chocolate souffle, not some lemon tart that you order. Chocolate souffle for brunch.
I'm never going to live that one down, am I? So.
Oh, wait. Didn't you also compare it to Subway? So,
well, it was, I wasn't comparing the food to Subway, but that was a long time ago for our listeners to go all the way back. Yeah. Our three listeners that have been with us since then. You know, I got a question for you too, Carol. We don't get a lot of people with older kids such as yours. So you've got a teenage son and kind of tween daughters. What are some of the things that they like to do on board?
So my teenage son As I said before, we started in January of 2019. He started off in Vibe. So it's the only club that he's ever been in. He was already Vibe age by the time we started sailing. He absolutely loves Vibe. We do not see him the entire cruise except at dinner. We make him come have dinner with us, but he adores Vibe. My daughters both started out obviously in like the Oceaneers Lab and Club, and they actually don't really enjoy the kids clubs very much. They didn't experience them on these cruises at all, partially because we didn't want to have them going into the kids club the first time around because we were trying to minimize exposure. But they really just kind of enjoy the family time and hanging out with us. And so they don't really enjoy the kids club. My older daughter, who's about to turn 12, is looking very forward to hopefully visiting Edge on our next cruise because she's very interested in doing that.
What kind of activities did your son get into in Vibe? I don't feel like we have that many people and guests on whose kids either A, go into the kids club, and B, they are that age. We just never talk about it. So what kind of stuff did he do?
So I would say, it's kind of interesting. I've had a lot of parents who have teenagers ask me about it. And I would say that my 17-year-old actually enjoys Disney cruises more than my girls who are 11 and 9. Pre-COVID, they had a lot of pre-planned activities in Vibe. They have something called Heroes versus Villains, where they split the teams up, and some of them are on the heroes team and the villains team. And I don't know exactly what all goes into that, but it's like this competition that goes on the entire length of the cruise where they do all these different things. And then at the end, either the heroes or the villains win. They do all sorts of, they have a smoothie bar, and they have all sorts of like scavenger hunts. And obviously they do karaoke, and they just have a myriad of activities constantly going on in Vibe pre-COVID. This time, they did not have those activities necessarily pre-planned, but they did do activities with the teams as they were in the club, as space and time allowed, as physical distancing allowed, so that they could try to keep with all the safety protocols, obviously. But he just adores it. He has so many prizes that he's won, socks and hats. But I would say beyond all of that, after cruising with Disney for a few years, he has friends all over the world from his cruises that he still talks to all the time. So I think that has been the most amazing part about it to me, is that the connections that he's made with people that have lasted through, the time.
I love that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I'm waiting to see what my son's going to be in Vibe, our oldest, and he kind of had that connection when we were sailing kind of back-to-back cruise, not back-to-back like yours, but a bunch of cruises in a row back in 2018, 2019, where the same kids were on two of our different sailings. And so I know that they have like a chat group that they every now and then they still kind of talk between each other. So that's kind of cool that your son has made those connections as well. As far as entertainment goes on board the ships, Carol, what are some of the things that you and your family like to do?
Our most favorite thing in the whole wide world is going to the shows at nighttime. I mean, you just can't, when every time somebody asks me, I always say, if I have one piece of advice for anybody going on a Disney cruise, don't skip the shows. They're just phenomenal. And the talent is just unbelievable. So that's one of the things we enjoy. We actually enjoy like walking around and just looking at the ship and really paying attention to the details, because I think Disney's just all about details. So we enjoy sitting on deck 4, watching the ocean go by, interacting and talking with the crew. I really, really enjoy that so much, just getting to know the crew. I like to shop. I can't speak for the rest of my family, but I love to go into the shops and buy the merch. So that's always a fun thing to do. And then my daughter enjoys some of the classes, like the animation class and anything that has to do with crafts type thing. She enjoys those kinds of things.
Did you guys do some of the crafts on this cruise?
We did not do a whole lot of the classes, but they did do the animation class this cruise, which she loves to draw. So that was a really fun experience for her. She really, really enjoyed it.
Do you have a favorite show, Carol?
I do. As I said, we've been on the Magic and the Fantasy. And I would say out of all the shows, my favorite is Frozen.
Yes. Carol and I have so much in common. We've learned from the Instagram, because she'll post things that she's purchased, and I'm like, I own that. I own that. I own that. I own that. So we have a lot of similarities. We love the Concierge, obviously, and Frozen is our favorite show at sea.
I say that knowing that we haven't seen Beauty and the Beast yet. And a lot of people say that is the best one out of all of them, but we haven't seen that one. But I do love the Frozen show. It's pretty amazing.
It is. I have seen Beauty and the Beast 1 3/4 times, and the Frozen is still better to me. But I can see why people like Beauty and the Beast and maybe why they would pick it. But I still love Frozen the best of the live shows. So did you see Frozen both weeks on the cruise?
We did not. We only did it once.
So I'm kind of all over the board. Let's talk about the merch then. Is there something that you like to collect, or is it more just kind of like hunting to see what's new?
I like to collect it all.
It's so addicting.
It is addicting. We never leave the ship without new coffee mugs and hats. That's always a given, and at least one new Christmas ornament, because at Christmas time I put up a tree that is really just a Disney tree, really more Disney cruise tree, but I have a tree that's dedicated just to that. So we always usually get ornaments and cups for sure. But I always like to look at, the Spirit jerseys, and I usually always buy a Dooney and Burke bag, but this time they didn't have anything new that I didn't already have or that I wanted. So I didn't do that this time. I did collect a couple of Loungefly bags because I do like purses a lot.
And I just learned, I don't know why I never knew this. Was Chris the one who taught us this? That there is a concierge pin that you can collect. And I did ask Carol. And Carol, what was your answer? Did you get the concierge pin?
We actually got the concierge pin in October 2019 when we sailed on the Fantasy. So we actually already have the concierge pin.
Did they offer it to you? Like, why don't I know this existed? Maybe it didn't the last time I cruised concierge. Do we know when it came to be?
I do not know when it came to be. That sailing on the Fantasy was our first concierge cruise, and they actually had it in the lounge. And here's an interesting side note. 2 of the hosts that we had on the cruises that we just took recently were the same hosts that were on that cruise with us in the Fantasy in October of 2019.
Oh, I love
so that was really cool. But they actually had it in the lounge. The pin was actually in the lounge. They had it up on display, and we asked about how to get it. And they told us you just go into the shop, but you have to show your concierge room card in order to be able to purchase it.
Okay. So I feel like either I wasn't pin training then, but I was, because I had cruise. I don't know if I was concierge. Anyway, maybe I wasn't pin trading then, or maybe they didn't offer it, because I feel like I would have purchased that. And I say pin trading, but I don't actually trade any of my pins. I just collect them. Are you the same way, Carol?
Yes, I do. I have started a collection of pins. I didn't do that when we first started sailing because I really didn't know anything about it. But I actually have now been collecting quite a lot of the pins, but I don't ever trade them. I just keep them all for myself.
Do you know, because we just started and we've collected a couple, but the officers used to have a special pin that they would give out. And have you seen those recently? Do they still have those? I don't think they do they? They
weren't doing any of that on this cruise that I could tell.
Right. But I mean, I think even before COVID, they stopped handing out. They had like special pins each year that was like an officer's pin that you could go and trade with them. And they were pretty amazing. They were pretty big. They were really well thought out, but I haven't seen one for a long time.
No, I don't know. Because like I said, we've never even gone to any of the pin trading events or anything like that. So that's kind of new to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they've kind of gotten a little negative feedback, I think, in some ways because of that, how crazy they were beforehand.
Right. You could never get away with it now.
Yeah.
Can't keep any distance.
Well, before we finish, before we finish up, I think there's like 2 other topics I'd like to touch on. The first one being, and I know that this doesn't really have a factor right now, just because most of the cruises are just going to Castaway Cay, but being concierge, they kind of help you out with shore excursions as well. Have you used concierge to book shore excursions, and what's your experience been like in some of your past cruises?
I'm trying to think about the answer to that question. I don't think we have actually used them to book any shore excursions. A lot of times when we go to new places, we get off and explore on our own. We don't often book excursions through Disney. So we actually haven't, that I can recollect right this second, we haven't actually used them for any of that.
I guess to finish up, the one place we haven't touched on, Christy, where haven't we gone yet?
Castaway. In your cabana, how was it?
It was amazing. We love being in the cabana on Castaway. And so obviously we had 4 Castaway Cay days between the 2 cruises. We had the same cabana for 3 of the 4 days. And on the last, for the last day, we actually decided not to have a cabana. We decided to spend the last day on the ship because we felt like we kind of got shortchanged with, the amount of time we could have on the ship. And I actually enjoy photography quite a bit. And I wanted to be able to take my professional camera around and take pictures of the ship and things in the ship without people. So that was a great time to do that. So we actually spent the last day on the ship, but it was really nice, especially when one day there was a really heavy rainstorm. It was really nice to have a cabana.
Yeah, we spent half of that day on board, which we'll talk about when we do my trip report, but it was so nice. The pools were so empty that Blake and Dave went over and over again on the aqueduct. Does your family get into that at all? Did they experience that?
Yes, actually, I was just about to say my husband and my older daughter, they went multiple times, just over and over again. My husband jokes, he said until his knee couldn't do the stairs anymore, they just kept going back over and over again because there was just no line. So they had enjoyed it quite a bit.
Before we finish up, Carol, I got a bunch of since you've been on a bunch of different cruises. So I've got a couple questions for you. Cabanas for breakfast or sit down?
Sit down.
Wait. I have a question now. Concierge lounge or sit down?
Sit down.
Okay.
All right. Aqua duck or aqua dunk? Have you done either of those?
My family would say aqua duck.
Okay. Marvel Day at Sea or Star Wars Day at Sea?
I don't know. I'll let you know after January when we go on Star Wars Day at Sea.
Okay. Funnel Vision or the Walt Disney Movie Theater?
Funnel Vision.
And I think I already know this one, Palo Brunch or Palo Dinner. I think you already said that one.
Palo Brunch for sure.
All right, Christy, you got any fun questions?
What is your favorite drink on board a Disney cruise?
Oh, wow. I don't know. One nice thing again about the concierge lounge is that the bartender kind of figures out what your preferences are. And so this last time, Rocky, who was amazing, came up with this modified version of an amaretto sour that he made for me that was like his own recipe. And so I actually asked him to teach my husband how to do it before we came home so he could make it for me when we got home. So Rocky's modified amaretto sour would be my favorite drink on board.
As we kind of finish up, Carol, I want to give you kind of the floor to talk about concierge one last time, kind of your final thoughts, and for people that are thinking about sailing concierge.
So I would just say that if anybody is contemplating it, and if it's in your budget and you can swing doing it, that it is well worth the price for the experience. The level of magic is so elevated beyond what you can possibly imagine. The hosts become like family, and it enhances the cruise experience, especially in our opinion, by making it much more relaxing and worry-free. And I just feel like as a mom of three, it just makes my vacation to the point where I just really don't have to think about anything, which is really, really nice.
I love it. I think that sums that up really well as far as your concierge experiences, Carol. So obviously you've got a Star Wars cruise booked. What else do you guys have booked? And is there kind of what am I looking for? What is there a cruise out there that you'd really like to do that you haven't been able to do yet?
Sure. Yeah. So we have the Star Wars. It's just my husband and I in January. That's 7 nights. And then we have back-to-back on the Dream in March, which is actually going to end up being a triple dip at Castaway. And then we have next October, we have an 8-night. I can't remember if it's called a Southern Caribbean or if it's an Eastern Caribbean cruise. Anyway, it has some pretty unique stops, including Antigua. So we're pretty excited about that. Panama Canal is on our bucket list. We obviously had it canceled. So that's on our bucket list. Alaska is also on our bucket list as well.
All just amazing sailings. I would love to do one of the Southern Caribbeans. How about you, Christy?
Absolutely.
Well, Carol, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your and your family's experiences with sailing concierge on Disney Cruise Line. Thanks for kind of giving us the differences and kind of teaching us and all our listeners the differences between the different ships and the experiences you've had. I want to give you a chance if people want to catch up or connect with you or follow you, if you want to throw that out there. How can people connect with you, Carol?
Thanks for having me today. And yes, Instagram is where I primarily share my experiences, and it's Disney Cruise Mom of Three on Instagram. There's an underscore in there somewhere, but I don't remember where off the top of my head. I think it may be Disney Cruise Mom underscore or Disney Cruise underscore Mom of Three.
It is Disney Cruise, underscore Mom of Three. So Disney Cruise underscore Mom of Three.
I will definitely put that in the show notes so people can connect with you there. And you've had just some amazing pictures on Instagram recently. I'm not as schooled on Instagram as Christy is, but I go over there every now and then, and I've noticed all the pictures that you put up from your last cruises. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks again, Carol. I really appreciate you coming on. We would love to have you come back on when you and your husband get back from that just magical sailing on the Disney Fantasy with the Star Wars Day at Sea. So thank you so much again. And we look forward to hopefully talking to you then.
Thank you. I look forward to sharing our experiences doing all the things that adults get to do on the Disney ships.
That's where I think Christy and I would love to be right now with our significant others, just kind of relaxing and letting the kids be with grandma and grandpa or somebody else, right?
Absolutely. Well, you get to do that in a couple of weeks, Steve.
We do. So I should. Yeah, I know. But ours is only a 3 day. So
I never is without me. He's done since COVID's practically.
Oh, it's coming, Christy.
Florida, we really are never without our child. Oh my God. Thank God for the kid club. Maybe that's why we keep booking cruises.
So you get that hour at a time away. So anyways, okay. Well, thanks again, Carol. We appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to talking to you after you get back from your next sailing. Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. I really want to thank Carol for coming on and sharing her and her family's experiences as they've sailed concierge several times now before and after the cruise ship stopped sailing. And a fun opportunity for her and her family as they experience back-to-back sailings of the Disney Fantasy, stopping at Castaway Cay several times. Well, if you're enjoying this podcast and you know others who would enjoy it as well, we sure would appreciate it if you pass it along to them. That helps us get the word out in the Disney cruising community, the Disney community, and just the cruising community in general. We'd also like to thank our Patreon supporters who bring this show to you each and every week. You can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there if you'd like to help support the show as well. Well, between now and our next show, if you and your family are heading out on a Disney cruise, headed down to Walt Disney World for the 50th, or heading down to Disneyland, all of us here at the DCL podcast, myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, would like to wish you all the best. Be well. Enjoy the time you have with your family. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.